What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Jerome Myers. How you doing today, Jerome?
Amazing, Dan. How are you, man?
I can't complain. So, for those of you in the audience who don't know me or don't know any of these chance encounters, the way it works is I interview commercial real estate investors, and then I go through the 5 different motivations I find that commercial real estate investors have for making their next acquisition, and I say, which one's you? Then I pull out my Dan Does Deal die, which if you go to dandoesdeal.com, dandoesdeals.com, well, I don't know why it's hard for me to say it today, but if you go there, you can download your own copy, and then that way you can print it out. And if you need to learn how to express yourself very clearly on the topic of commercial real estate, that die will help you do it. But that goes through the 6 different roles. And I say to my guest, which one is your core competency that you're most likely to bring to your next deal? But if we are going to make it all work, you got to be able to identify and introduce yourself clearly. So Jerome, could you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Dan, I'm a corporate America dropout, man. I built a $20 million division for a Fortune 550, and after laying people off 2 years in a row, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I went and thought I was going to buy an apartment. That didn't work out for me the first time. I went to 9 other banks. They all told me no. So I ended up fixing and flipping for a while. And then eventually I met a couple of guys who wanted to do the deal that I wanted to do originally. So we closed that. And then my name was in the paper. My name being in the paper had commercial loan officers reach out to me. Then they wanted to lend to me. And then from there, it's a totally different story. I moved down to a different market down here in Greensboro, North Carolina, started buying deals here, and we host a conference called the Mid-Atlantic Multifamily Investing Conference, and we've got a multifamily kickstart course, and we own and operate a portfolio.
All right, beautiful thing. And I've seen all your stuff on LinkedIn with the red pill and all that kind of stuff. Maybe we can get into that in the part about reaching out to you. But first, let's do the part about motivation. Now, I always start these off by going through the motivation, especially when I can find my cursor and I hit that, and then I hit this button right here, and then boom, it thinks about it and it malfunctions. That's awesome. I checked this immediately before this happened, and it was fine.
It's
And
all
there it is.
figure outable. It's all
Oh
figure
yeah,
outable.
figure it all out. There you go. So I go through the motivations because newbies, they don't know what their role is going to be necessarily, but at least they know why they're doing it. So here are the 5 different motivations. First one, some people are there to preserve their purchasing power. So if you have a family office, if you're independently wealthy and you rely on the cash flow that comes from your wealth to make ends meet, then this is you preserving your purchasing power. They're constantly having to make new acquisitions to stave off inflation because that's what's going to end the party. So that's the first motivation. Second one is my one, which is trading time for wealth. You know, I've got this background in e-commerce technology and mass marketing with all the emailing and the online sales funnels, lead capture, all that sort of stuff. But if you make a bunch of money in the form of salary or wages, you're also paying more tax as a percent of your income than anybody else. So it seems kind of silly. So I decided to pivot into the GP teams so that way my effort and time is being paid back in the form of equity, aka wealth. And so I get the tax advantages of that instead of just waiting to, pay my taxes and then squirrel away whatever savings are left. So that's what I'm up to. The next reason is the most common one for wanting a commercial deal, which is fast tracking your retirement. And there are a few things that are implied there. One of the biggest ones is that there's kind of like an end goal in mind. There is a day where you don't want to be hustling every single day of the week, maybe only a couple days a week, 1 day a week, 1 day a month, whatever it is. That's implied when you say fast track retirement. It's that there's going to be some day where maybe some people, they just want to become accredited investors and they want to move someplace with a low cost of living on a beach. And that's in contrast to the next group, which are the super ambitious people. They want to buy their entire hometown. They've got something they want to show. They're super duper ambitious. They're going to keep on hustling forever and ever and ever. And then that's in contrast to the last motivation, which is some people have picked a section of society, or they just have this need inside them to find like either the environment or animals, or again, a sector of society where they want to have a really big social impact. And the best vehicle out there to have a social impact is to accumulate wealth so that you actually have something to give, as opposed to just volunteering or something like that. So those are the 5 different motivations I've found why commercial real estate investors do what they do. Of those 5, what combination of them really describes you best, Jerome?
Of those 5, I think they all fit. If I had to pick the top one, it would probably be because I want to buy my hometown. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
the biggest real estate housing provider, the biggest housing provider in the city of Greensboro at some point. So that's part of the motivation. I think the next one would be I have a desire to help residents. I believe that the cognitive dissonance that exists between landlords and residents these days is sickening, at least for
Yeah.
a lot of the properties that I buy. And so I'm looking to make sure that people have a safe place to live, and that, the owners are doing what they're supposed to do. And so, you know, accelerating retirement, I love what I do every day. I'm not really looking forward to doing nothing. Do I want to be able to do whatever I want, wherever I want? Pretty close to that at this point, but I guess there could always be things that are better. So I'd probably just go with those top 2, be
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
helping the residents, and I want to buy my own town because I'm overly ambitious.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned Figure It Out, which is my series. I put out 366 videos on 366 topics in 366 days. And one of the biggest things I was figuring out was, like, I knew that I was planning on making this jump into commercial real estate, but I wanted to make sure that, I was really happy with that. And so that little fight between tenants and landlords, that's happening in the media and all that sort of stuff, is something I put a lot of thought into. And the easiest one I have is just about everybody would be willing to hire a maid if they could to clean up their own place. But, like, what is it you think that you're paying the landlord for? It's to keep the hallways clean. It's to shovel the sidewalks if you have snow. It's to mow the lawns, all that kind of stuff, so you don't have to. So, like, this whole image of, a landlord is just somebody who is, like the child of a rich person who's never worked a day in their life, and they're just like collecting checks just for being alive, like that. It's enough to make most people grind their teeth, but I don't think it matches what's actually going on. We are providing places for people to stay that they actually want to stay in. Otherwise, you just leave, and I understand that when things are bad, you can't just leave, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. But let's talk a little bit more about landlords, shall we? And the way we'll do it is we'll talk about it in the context of the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. So if you don't have a way to effectively communicate commercial real estate, then this should really, really help you in the audience. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the repositioners. Repositioners look at a whole whack of different properties, and they do the math. They underwrite it, is the fancy word for doing the math. They figure out, is this seller of the property, are they telling the truth? Is the business actually making the money that they say it is? And then the other thing that the repositioner is looking for is they're looking for upside. And what are the 2 main tools that they have for getting upside? One of them is more efficient operations. They cut the costs. They stop those Benjamins from running down the toilet. But it's also a marketing piece, in the sense of the leasing agent has to make sure that the vacancy rate is really, really low. So there are a few different types of operators. But of course, right now, real estate is so hot that more efficient operations, it isn't usually going to give enough upside. So pretty frequently, they try to do a value add piece by getting some contractors in there and making the place nicer. That way they can charge more in rent. And so those are the main 2 tools in a repositioner's toolbox. But if you're like me and you're from the internet, then you have a problem. You definitely need boots on the ground. You need a local who can be there in an hour or something like that, because that's not going to be me, because I'm from the internet. Okay. So I'm going to need somebody who can actually be there in an hour. And then they're going to make sure that the contractors are keeping the schedule. They're not cutting any corners. They're making sure that the operators are actually doing their jobs and they're not just sloughing photos and all that kind of stuff. And that's what most people think about when they think of the people who own a commercial property. But of course, there's more to it than that. There's the banks, there's the financiers and capital raisers and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to buy an apartment complex and it's worth millions or tens of millions of dollars, you're probably going to a bank and borrowing millions or tens of millions of dollars. And what they're going to want to know that you might not know as a beginner is they're going to want to know who's the sponsor, who's the KP. And what that means is, like, even if you are independently wealthy, even if you're Elon Musk and you want to buy a 350 or 1,500 unit apartment complex, you're going to have somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset, or else you're not going to be able to get the loan. The other features of the sponsor KP is you have to have a certain amount of liquidity on hand, and there also has to be a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you get all 6 of these all thrown together that I just said, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So out of that model there, Jerome, how would you best describe your core competencies that you're most likely to contribute to your next deal?
Yeah, I'll pick something that's not on there, but it's an agglomeration of a multiple ones, right? So I've been the asset manager for every deal that I've been in, and that's positioned me at this point to be a sponsor, as well as I actually would never want to sponsor a deal I didn't underwrite. So underwriter slash repositioner. We
Mhm.
only buy value add stuff. So, we look for things that are under market rents or have inefficiencies in the operations of the business, figure out how to actually get those out so that we can increase the net operating income so that we can exit for a nice chunk of change. So, I sponsor all my deals, I sign all the loans, and I usually am the source, which wasn't actually on your list, but it, I guess that would be as the repositioner role. So those
Right,
two
right. The
I bring.
acquisition side, yeah, of the repositioner. Yep. All right, definitely. Yeah, yeah, sure. That makes lots of sense. That's great. And then of course also you're in Greensboro, which is as hot as it comes. So that also makes you somewhat of a boots on the ground side too, right? Like everybody wants something where you are, just because the job growth, the population growth, it's just absolutely killer. So,
We
but
just
that bring
landed I think we just landed a Toyota plant or something. It's like a 2B or something crazy. So it's amazing.
Right, right, exactly. And those are nice, reliable jobs. That's really, really sweet. So that brings me to the next part. I call it the buy box. In other words, it's the ideal property. And what it really means is, what does a property look like if it's much easier to say yes, it's much more difficult to say no. I imagine that if it's in Greensboro, then that's one of the top ones. But as far as geographic area, unit count, and class, what's your real sweet spot, Jerome?
Yeah, we look for C class properties in B neighborhoods in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we buy things under 100 units because we can't compete with the things that brokers are putting on the street.
Yeah, institutionals like everywhere. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. So, and then as far as one of my favorite things about commercial real estate in general is that people are so helpful, and I chalk that up to because nobody is all of the sides of the die at the same time. You really have to cooperate to make this work. So, without breaking any SEC restrictions, which means you're not allowed to entice investors, who on this die do you think you can help more than anybody else in real estate, and therefore they're better people for you to reach out than anybody else? Who can you help more than anybody else?
Yeah, people who need to place capital, I can help a lot. And I guess the other side of that would be people who are trying to figure out how to be underwriters.
All right, awesome, awesome. And so then the last question for you is, we ended up crossing paths. I see you on LinkedIn all the time, and you're friends with a ton of my friends, so that's why I reached out. But is LinkedIn the best way to reach out to you, or is there another is there a website that's better, or what's the
Yeah,
best way?
jeromemyers.co is where you can pick your journey. We've got a lot of different things that people can engage with us on, and you can find it all there.
All right, sweet, sweet. And before we wrap up, do you want to say anything about your red pill campaign? You got all sorts of swag, all sorts of people I see saying that they took the red pill.
Yeah. Yeah, man, The Matrix just dropped. It's an amazing movie. It's questioning and breaking, forcing people to question the way they think about life and breaking down paradigms that I think we've held for far too long. I took the red pill when I decided to leave corporate America, and I try to take it daily. I just want people to live in their truth, right? I want people to aggressively pursue their passions and understand that their gifts will make room for them. And this construct that most people live in, where they have to go do this thing because it pays well,
Mhm.
is forcing them to. Yeah, it was funny. You have Benjamins on a, you have $100 bills on a toilet paper roll on your die.
Yeah.
I think that's what most people are doing with their time. They're flushing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. And like me, like I got into tech for the money. There's no two. Like I always say that with programmers, there are two kinds of programmers: those that'll tell you they do it for the money, and liars. That's the other kind. So that's what I was up to. But I really came to the conclusion you can't skip the financial piece of the world, of society. It's you do have to play the game, or else you're going to lose it. Just full stop. I don't see any middle ground. You have to, like there's no guarantees as far as retirement goes. Saving is not the answer. Accumulating equity and wealth, it's the only way where retirement's even conceivable. But anyway, on that lovely note, I got one other thing to say to you in the camera, which is if you look under my left hand, I know that was a little bit of a drag right now, but there's just I've got something very important that makes me very sad, which is that if under my left hand you see a red button, that makes me really, really sad. And the only way to stop me from being sad is to click on it and turn the red button gray, because that means that YouTube will pay for these videos instead of me. That's much, much, much better. So pretty please, with sugar on top, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And all it means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions. I don't know how much time you spend on YouTube, but if you don't spend much time on YouTube, then, it won't even affect you at all. But it will help me. You'll have done me an enormous favor. Just like Jerome, you've done me an enormous favor today by coming onto this chance encounter. Thank you very much. This has been awesome getting to know you.
Great to meet you too, Dan. Talk soon.
All right, sweet. Thanks.